Before we get started, I want to share some wins that we've had over the past year with L3. If you guys have been here long enough, you know that we've been through some transitions over the past year, and I think the growth of our team has been tremendous. And I want to share growth with 3 students here that are blowing me away week in and week out. First is Kayla, who's singing. Does she not have an amazing voice? I get I'm usually here 14, 16 hours on Wednesdays, and I get to hear her do rehearsal and sound check and things like that, and it blows me away every week she sings, especially when she sings something new, because when she sees something new, you can tell that it's pushing her to get better, and it's amazing. 2 other students that I want to recognize really quick for what they do, and they do it behind the scenes every week, and they're here super early, is Jackson and Jared Gold. They're actually in the sound booth today, working back there behind the scenes. So guys, thank you guys for what you're doing. They've helped us out tremendously. Some wins that we've had over the year. Last September was See You at the Pole, and that's a big prayer service that happens at the schools. Myself personally, I was in front of 600 students that week, and I got to share the gospel with them. I got to pray with them, and there was almost 350 students show up at one school that morning at 7:00, and it's just amazing. We have a big partnership with FCA that puts me in front of. I'm in Sevier, Robinson, Sullivan North, and Dobbins Bennett every week. And I'm in front of thousands of students. So what I'm trying to say is L3 is not just these 4 walls. We have taken L3 as a personal initiative to take it outside these walls to share the gospel inside the school. So huge win on that. We had our Thanksgiving dinner back in November. Great success. So we've got a lot of things that we can brag about God for what he's done in L3. What I want to do really quick, speaking of another win, is seniors graduating. That seems to be this time of year very important. So we actually have 2. One couldn't make it. Nick Sanders, they've been here. How old was Nick when you guys first started coming here? 7. He's been here since he was 7 years old. He's actually having to work today. He got called in. But he's graduating from volunteer next weekend, or this Saturday. And he's going to a school for heating and air conditioning starting soon. So we have a gift for Nick, and he will get that as soon as I see him. So the second senior we have is Michaela. If you'll go ahead and come up here. Yeah, I'm going to call you up here. That's what I do. I embarrass kids. It's part of being a student pastor. Michaela, if you haven't heard her sing, you need to do that first and foremost. Go to her mom's Facebook page. There's tons of videos. That's how I listen to them. She has an amazing voice, but more than that, she has a big heart. Chad and I kid around all the time when we need childcare. Oh, just call Michaela. She'll be here. Just call Michaela. She does Tuesday nights for us. She does Sunday morning rotations. There's a church that meets on Friday night. She's here every week serving them. She does a lot for our church behind the scenes and serving with babies, not teenagers, with the toddlers running around. That is a difficult job. So on behalf of L3, I want to congratulate you and your family for her graduating. And same thing for Nick. Congratulate him and his family for him graduating. I will tell you this, though. I bought senior gifts this week, and they're not in the church. And so as soon as I find them, you will get your gift. So, Michaela, congratulations on you graduating. Yeah, see, I went and bought them Monday, thinking I'm going to get a good start on it. I'm going to buy them Monday, and I didn't realize 6 days later I wouldn't know where they were at. So, they will get them as soon as possible. The next thing I'll do before we get into the sermon, I'm the face of L3. When people think of L3 student ministry, for some reason they think of me. I guess because I'm the student pastor, I get paid to speak. I get paid to be with these kids. They all blow my phone up all the time. But I wouldn't change it for anything. But I couldn't pull it off without my leadership team. So if you are an adult leader or a student leader, I want you to stand up. Stand up. Stand up. This team here, I promise you, I could not do anything without them. Every time I need something, every time something has to be done on Wednesdays or during the week or planning events, they're the first ones I call because I can't do it all by myself. So on behalf of L3, I want to thank you guys for what you do for me and the ministry. You guys mean a lot to me. You guys have surrounded me in times of need, like a few weeks ago with Kelly, what you've done. So thank you guys. Let's give it up for my leadership team. You guys can have a seat. Another big win is our logo that we got. It's an updated logo. So that's a big win. It's on the back of our shirts. And you can actually buy the package. It's a shirt, bracelet, sunglasses, and a sticker if you want that to help support L3. We're going to transition now to All In. And I'm going to transition this because All In is kind of the title of my sermon today. So you guys can get a visual on what this is, what we're trying to do, and how you guys can be a part of it. Back in January, Eric, Chad, and myself went to a staff retreat. And we were planning and vision casting and problem solving. And we come up with this key phrase for L3 called All In. And it just basically means everything we do, events, sermon series, worship, whatever we do is focused on these students. And not only focus on these students, but reaching their families. See, I feel like right now, when I took over this position, there was 3 islands in the middle of the ocean. There's L3, there's the church, you guys, Sunday mornings, and then there's the parents. And the Sunday morning church sits on this island, and for us on Wednesdays, we sit on our island, and the parents sit at home. And my vision was, how can we build a bridge to make these gaps be connected, these 3 islands? Well, if we're sitting on Wednesday nights on the island of L3, we've got to bridge the gap between L3 and the parents, and then L3 and the congregation. See, for us on Wednesday nights, we can't build the gap between you all and the parents if we can't get to those islands ourselves. So we want to build these bridges between L3 and the parents and L3 and the congregation. That way, as a church body, we can build that bridge between parents and Sunday morning. To see household changes happen, household salvations happen in our community. So that's where it all came from. That's the big idea. I can't take credit for any of the main idea of it. I did not come up with it. But I did a lot of the background of it. So as we continue on into this part of All In, I want to share a few things with you real quick before we get started on what we're doing and what we're trying to see, because some of you may not know what L3 is. L3 is designed for middle school and high school students. We meet Wednesdays at 6:30. The 3 L's of L3. We want to learn the gospel, we want to love people, and we want to lead this generation with Christ. That's our 3 L's. That's what our focus is. I have been I was the middle school pastor for 4 years. And about 9 months ago, I took over middle school and high school. And some people are wondering what this is. Does anybody know what horse blinders are? These are hanging up here, or sitting up here, because I'm going to use these in a prop later. Do I have a volunteer that want to put them on? I'm kidding. But horse blinders are small hard leather, that attach to the horse's head, and it keeps that horse's eyes focused on what's in front of them and not what's around them. So by the end of the day, you will see why blinders and All In make a connection, and how I make this connection. So I want to go with about the 4 parts of All In. The 4 groups of people we focus with All In are students, parents, leaders, and the congregation. For students, we're kind of going around Proverbs 22:6. Train up a child in the way he should go, and even when he's old, he will not depart from it. We want these students to see that we're invested. We want to be invested in them so they can see that we genuinely care about their lives. Not just Wednesdays, not just Sundays. It's Mondays, it's Tuesdays, it's Thursday nights, it's Friday night hospital visits, it's Saturday morning competitions, it's Thursday night band shows, it's Tuesday night baseball games. We don't want it to be Sunday morning and Wednesday night. We want it to be an investment in their lives as a whole. And in return, we want the students to be invested not just in L3 or preaching Christ Church, invested in the gospel and taking it out. We want the students to represent Matthew, where it says, go and make disciples. That's the whole purpose of Christianity, is to go and make disciples. And that's what we're trying to teach these kids. For the parents, we use this. We're going to use the same scripture. Train up a child. How are you raising your child? And we're not saying you're doing a bad job. I've never once thought of a parent they're doing a bad job of the way they raise their child because it's their own personal way of doing so. But are you raising your child in the way of the gospel so when he is old, he will not depart from it? We want the parents to know that we are serious. We're serious about your kids enough that when you have a Friday night emergency room visit, we're there. When we have a Thursday night baseball game, I'm there. We are there. L3 is there. The church is there. But in return, we want parents to be serious about sending their kids and feeding their kids and training their kids and raising their kids the way they should be trained. I think it's funny. I get messages all the time from kids. I can't come tonight. I wish I could be there, but I can't. And most of them, baseball games, football games, I get it. I played sports growing up. I know how it is. But the answer that gets me the most is when my mom or when the parents say, you can't go to church because you're grounded from church. You got in trouble, so you can't go to church. Yeah, I know, you can laugh about it. I do too. Why would you ground your child from something that is positive and impactful in their life? I get it. Kids come to hang out and have fun. We do the same thing. But when it boils down to what L3 is about, is sharing the gospel. So we need parents to be serious about making sure their students get here. For our leaders, 1 Timothy 4:15, practice these things. Immerse yourself in them so that all may see your progress. We want to be intentional with our leaders. Intentional on sharing information, training, and building them up. In return, we want our leaders to be intentional about discipleship with our kids. The congregation. That's where most of us are. So what I'm going to do right now, who's got the congregation stack? Stand up. Stand up. If you are in the congregation and you say, I do not have a middle school or high school student in my household right now, just raise your hand. That's all you got to do. Everybody gets one that has their hand up. This paper I'm handing out basically sums up what I'm saying about the congregation. Is we're going to be committed to letting you all know what's going on with L3. In return, we want the congregation to be committed to L3. In prayer, serving, financially, any way you think God is calling you to be committed to L3. And at the bottom of it, it has 4 things that will allow you all to pray for L3, our 4 biggest needs. The band is great on Sunday mornings. I love the band. But for over a year now, Kayla and Eric has been doing acoustic, which is great, but we would like to build a student band maybe just once a month right now, just to have something change a little. A van driver. Boy, do I need a van driver. I leave the church here about 4 o'clock. At that time, I already have 7 kids walking from school here. They're here by 3:15. I leave at 4 o'clock. drive, pick up kids, with these kids already on the bus, get back here by 5:30, more kids show up, have service. As soon as service is over, I leave with 16 to 20 kids, drop all them off, get back at 10:30 and go home. And while that's going on, I have leaders here watching the kids that are still here waiting for rides. And I'm not doing this as a guilt trip. I'm not. I've done it for 2 years by myself. I've done it for a year in just my personal vehicle by myself. I'm not asking for a guilt trip here. I'm saying if God's calling you to help L3 in that need, we could use it. A facility, it would be nice. Big prayer goals, big dream goals, big vision casting. But I like to have a facility designed specifically for our students. We come in here on Wednesdays and we have service in here and it's great. But wouldn't it be nice if we had a facility that students could just come and hang out during the week? Our students could come at 3 o'clock and there'd be tables to do their homework or games they could play. And the last thing, and what I would say, in my opinion, is the most important thing right now, is security. I've been talking to Summer about it for a while, and Jacob, and most people's schedules on the safety team will not allow them to be here on Wednesday nights. And statistics prove that student services need a safety team. You don't have to talk to kids. You don't even have to interact with them. I just need you to be eyes on the kids in case something does happen. So those are our 4 needs. I'm going to backtrack a little bit and go back to the parents. If you're a parent of a middle or high school student, raise your hand. Where's my parent group? They're going to hand these out. I should have handed these out before and I completely forgot. But there is those. So those are the 4 groups of all in that my team and myself want to build on. Everything we do will be decided and planned around this theme. And because it's Sunday morning and the congregation has the largest group of number of people here, that's what we're going to talk about a little bit. So if you have your Bibles, we're going to be in Matthew chapter 14. I was talking to Kayla after our pre-service meeting, and she said, "Hey, what are you speaking about today?" And I said, "Peter walking on water." She said, "That's so crazy," because that's what I was going to talk about from the stage. And I said, "Well, do it. God's aligned this for a specific reason for somebody to get this concept." We're going to be in Matthew chapter 14, verses 22 through 33. It says, "Immediately he made the disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side while he dismissed the crowds." I want to stop right there just for a second. Backtrack into the earlier parts of chapter 14 and say, what's going on here? Jesus just fed the 5,000. That is one of the few miracles that's in all 4 Gospels. For me, it seems like it would be mind-blowing because it's 5,000 men, probably. So on top of that, you have wives and children. So you're looking, some scholars say about 15 to 20,000 people Jesus fed. That's almost half, that's a third of Kingsport, basically. Jesus fed them with little to no food. One of the greatest miracles that I believe Jesus completed was feeding the 5,000. And he said as soon as he got done, so immediately he made the disciples get in the boat and leave while he dismissed the crowd. And after he dismissed the crowd, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone. But the boat by this time was a long way from the land, beaten by the waves, for the wind was against him. More background information. This lake or this sea or whatever they were crossing in a boat was about 4 to 5 miles wide. So by this time, he sent them out. They've made their voyage so far. Some scholars estimate that this was about 3 miles into their travel across the water. So they're 1 to 2 miles away, which is a long distance when it's storming and the waves are crashing and you're in a boat. I got to tell you this joke really quick. I just thought of it. We were at Ashley's graduation, and the woman got up there and she said, you don't have to be this genius or this doctor to do great things. She closed her speech. She said, remember, an amateur built the Ark. Professionals built the Titanic. Just so you guys know. Verse 25. And in the fourth watch of the night, he came to them, walking on the sea. On the fourth watch, the Romans basically divided the night into 4 watches, 3-hour shifts. This was between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. And he came walking on the sea. But when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified and said, it is a ghost. And they cried out in fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, take heart, it is I. Do not be afraid. And Peter answered him, Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water. And he said, come. So Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water and came to Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, Lord, save me. Jesus immediately reached out his hand and took a hold of him, saying, oh, you little faith, why do you doubt? And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased, and those in the boat whispered him, saying, truly, you are the Son of God. So he had this conversation with Jesus. Jesus is out on the water. It's really dark outside. The waves are crashing. The storm's hitting him hard. And he sees this man who he thinks is a ghost walking on the water towards him. Now, they just witnessed one of the greatest miracles that Jesus recorded. And they still didn't think Jesus could walk on water. So they didn't expect it to be Jesus walking on the water. Thought it was a ghost. And then Peter's like, well, if it's you, God, Jesus, if it's you, let me come out there. Let me talk to you. We'll have a conversation on the water, and I'll believe it. And Jesus said, come on, let's have fun out here. I don't imagine Peter take off running, jumping out and running on the water. You know, when you go to a pool, you want to see how cold it is, you do the little. Now, some of us take off running and jump in, but I feel like the most part, you stick your toe in. His toe didn't sink in the water. He's like, okay. So then he put his foot on the water, put a little bit of pressure. He didn't put his whole weight on it yet, I'm sure. Okay, this may be true. Let's try it. Holding on to the boat, walking out like this. Just in case he went under, he still has the boat. But eventually he stood up and walked out. And here's where the blinders come in. And I'll bring it back in just a minute. But the blinders come in because he didn't see the waves. He was focused on Christ. So he got to walk on water. But it said when his blinders adjusted to in front of his eyes, and he couldn't see Jesus anymore, all he seen was the world, he began to sink. See, that's a powerful statement of faith right there. So in our lives, how many times has the wind and the waves, I'm sure it wasn't a casual walk on the shore in this storm. I'm sure he got the gust of winds and he got the waves beating against him. I'm sure he wasn't just walking like he was walking on this stage here. But he caught. So through all that, he caught his blinders adjusting. See, a horse, when they race them, they put these blinders on like this. That way they can't see the horses beside of them. They can only see the finish line. So that's what they're focused on. He gets on there and he gets hit by the waves and the wind comes and the blinders shift in front of his eyes. And what he originally was looking at was Christ. But because the blinders adjusted in front of his eyes, all he could see was the world around him. And he began to sink. These blinders took me about a week and a half to find. Apparently, no horse stables in the area have horse blinders. So I had to go down to my old neck of the woods down in Greene County and find a pair of horse blinders. Now see, with our spiritual blinders, we can put these on and we see Jesus just like the horse sees the finish line. But if something were to happen and the horse blinders were adjusted to in front of the horse's eyes, all he could see was around him, and he would go crazy. He would start kicking and bucking and trying to throw the runner off and running into things because he could not see the direction he was meant to go. Coming back to the congregation, I want you to be committed because the world around us has beat us up so much, our blinders have adjusted from seeing students to seeing the world, and we lose track of the students sitting here. See, there's times I get messages 12 o'clock at night, I'm done with life. I don't know what else to do. Farragut High School down in Knoxville had 9 suicides this school year. In Sullivan County schools, just the county of Sullivan County, so you have Kingsport City, so you have Dobbins Bennett, East, North, Central, and South. In 5 schools, we still had 3 successful suicide attempts. And I could count, I would need my hands and feet in somebody else's hands to count the times I got messages of kids attempting suicide just in our area. I'm seeing messages on Facebook, 14, 15-year-old girls getting pregnant and the guy just leaving and having nothing to do with them anymore. And because the waves of this world are beating against them, and they're also beating against the church, our blinders have adjusted to in front of our face, so we can't see the need in our students. We see how bad the world is around them. And we're so focused on that, we start sinking into the world thinking we can't do anything about it. I've got kids that come here on Wednesday nights. They show up at 3:15. I don't get them home till 10 or 10:30. And not one time does a mom text, call, or say, hey, where are you at? 7 hours with me here, and a parent doesn't even know where they're at. I need parents to be serious about their child. I need the congregation to be committed to these students. Really quick, just to see what's going on. If you're a middle school or high school student, stand up. I don't know how many that is, but I can guarantee that if you count this number twice, that's what we see on Wednesday nights. You guys can have a seat. There's a gap. I've had so many students say, I don't even know if I could come to church on Sundays. I don't have a ride. I don't know if I can come to church on Sundays. Nobody will talk to me. I don't know the adults on Sunday. I had a kid message me this morning. Hey, I would love to come to L3 Sunday, but I don't have a ride. A kid wanting to be here. His parents are not in church. His whole family's not in the church, but he's taking the initiative to want to be here on Sunday morning, and I can't go get him. We have to be all in. We have to make sacrifices to our daily lives to say, I'm going to be committed to praying for these students. I'm going to be committed to serving these students. I'm going to be committed to finding ways for these students to hear the gospel. Kayla, if you and Eric will go ahead and come up here. Here's the kicker. Peter walked on water. His blinders were adjusted. Seen the world around him. Lost track of his goals. And he sunk in the water. Us as a congregation have had our blinders for years, for generations, for centuries, set on raising our children. And just because this world is getting rough, worse than we've ever seen it, our blinders have adjusted from focusing on the students to seeing the world and losing track of their lives. Just like Peter, when he sunk in the water, we're sinking into the world because we're losing sight of our students. Hey, will you pull up that picture for me? This was last summer. If we're not careful and we're not committed to L3 and to the students of our country and the students of our city and schools, this generation will be the Judges 2:10 generation. Let me just read it for you. Judges chapter 2, verse 10. And all that generation also were gathered to their fathers. Here it is. And there arose another generation after them who did not know the Lord. See, if we're not committed to these students, there's 115 students in this picture. And they're going to become a lost generation that does not know the Lord if we're not committed to them. There's 115 there. 180 will have 15. Rock Alley will have 40. The nursery has 20. There'll be a generation that does not know the Lord if the Sunday morning congregation is not committed to serving them in some way. There was a pastor one time, traveled the world as an evangelist, doing revivals night in, night out. 250 days a year, he was preaching the gospel to strangers he did not know. And thousands came to know the Lord. He got a phone call one day. His son tragically died in a car accident. And when he got up to preach his son's funeral, he closed his Bible and said, "Unfortunately, I don't know if my son's in heaven or hell tonight." I don't want that to be our generation. I don't want that to be the generation of L3. We might think, oh, they got their life ahead of them. Not for those 9 kids in Farragut. Not for the 6 kids in Sullivan County that's died this year, 3 by suicide. Their lives are over. This is not the next generation. This is the generation of now, the church of today, that we need to invest the gospel in. And I need a congregation that's going to be committed to these students and to the gospel. They're going to sing this song called Oceans. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Ask God to lead you someplace to be committed to this generation where you've never been before. So these students will not become a lost generation of the world. Let Jesus reset your blinders from blocking out the students and only seeing the world. Let him reset them to where all you see are the students. It doesn't matter what the world's doing. You see the students and their need for the gospel. As they sing this song, I want to challenge you to pray and see how God wants you to be committed to our students and how you can serve L3 in some way.